Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. I like that. I appreciate that. So I'm Joseph Heritage. I'm the design lead here at Columbia University, and I'm joined by Shanna, who's the founder of Bitae Technologies, and soon we'll also be joined by Alice, who is the founder of 51 Labs, who will be zooming in directly from Iraq. So let's hope that technology works out for us. So there she is. Hi, Alice. We can see you, and we're glad that you're able to join us from Iraq today. Amazing. It's going as smooth as I thought. So, perfectly. Here we are. So just a little background about me. So I'm the design lead here. I also got my master's at CEPA, studying international development, and then spent 7 years in East Africa working with internally displaced people. So I empathize deeply with the work that Alice and Shanna are doing with forced migration groups. I'm also incredibly encouraged by the work that they're doing, and I believe that you'll be as well through this conversation that we're going to have. Now, as design lead, I use a methodology called human-centered design. I get the privilege of teaching students and professors across the university, sort of help them unpack really wicked, challenging problems. I say this because I believe that Alice and Shanna are really the embodiment of what it means to be human-centered designers. They keep their user at the center of the problem. They keep their user's needs paramount and first. They're exploring intractable problems that seem insurmountable. They're reframing those problems around the needs of their users. They're generating brave, bold new ideas, and they're prototyping really incredible solutions. So, with that said, I'd like to kick off the conversation. Alice, we're going to start with you, and I'm really curious to know from you sort of what's the mission of 51 Labs? And even more critically to me, what's the aha moment or the spark moment, the inspiration moment for you where you wanted to begin working in this field? So Alice, please.
Yeah, thanks so much. First of all, hello, everybody. I am calling in from Iraq, so sorry that I'm on some giant screen in the hall. I'm so happy to be here with you all and to be able to share a bit about 51 Labs. 51 Labs is a startup incubator located in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. The Kurdistan region of Iraq is kind of caught between a lot of challenging places. It's between Mosul and Iraq. It's between Iran and Syria. And what that means is it's a place where there are a lot of people that have been displaced into it. It's a relatively safe and stable location. And so you get a lot of amazing human capital that is displaced here because of the conflict wherever they're coming from. And so our mission at 51 Labs is to help these incredible people to rebuild their lives through entrepreneurship. A lot of the people we work with are college educated, they have professional experience, but maybe they've lost their savings, they've lost their certifications, they've lost the local network that gives them the ability to have a job at the level that they are at. And so we help them launch businesses, and not only businesses, but scalable, innovative businesses that have the opportunity to employ other people and really help them benefit their community. So that is what we do. I would say the aha moment came for me when I was working at the UN Refugee Agency, when I was working in the innovation office, and we were doing a lot of pretty incredible things. Sorry, we were doing a lot of incredible things, but I think the one thing we were not very good at was helping people actually rebuild their lives. And a lot of that came down to how do we help people get jobs or help people kind of rebuild their livelihoods. And so I decided to leave UNHCR and actually apply to graduate school. And I applied to Columbia with the idea of launching a series of incubators around the world, specifically for people who have been displaced by conflict. And so here we are today because of it.
Thank you so much, Alice. I appreciate that. So Shanna, sort of, the same question. Like, what's the brief mission of Bitae Technologies, and then also that spark or aha moment where you knew you had to take action?
All right. Yeah, I think to echo a lot of what Alice said, I think that to start with our mission, I guess the mission of Bitae Technologies is in general to improve access to employment and to opportunities, to economic opportunities for refugees, asylum seekers, displaced job seekers in general, and looking at this from a lens of talent and of opportunities as much as it is a lens of refugee issues and conflict and displacement and struggle. You know, I think that at the end of the day, we're talking about linking talent to opportunities where it should be connected. I think that my aha moment, I think that it's a series of aha moments as any career, I suppose, goes, where I was at the State Department when the Syria crisis, the refugee flow came out of Syria when it started to heat up at about 1 million people, which was a formative moment for me. And I went from there into the Peace Corps, which I think as much as anything, human-centered design has become my bottom line. I love being identified as a human-centered designer as I'm an entrepreneur, because that's the root issue here, I think, from the State Department to the Peace Corps, and then later to working in a refugee camp briefly in Greece, where I was a teacher helping to start a school from scratch, which was a learning experience. All of those experiences made it very clear that if you don't look at the problem, if you don't apprentice with the problem, if you don't look at what the issue is through the lens of the people, you know, there in the community, and ask what the community is trying to do, what they're looking for, what they need, what resources need to be available. That human-centered thinking pattern, I think, has been my inspiration to keep going through these issues and keep looking at it from every angle, because I think the last speaker talked about all of the challenges you run into issues in innovation, and that's the bottom line of innovation is iteration and prototyping, and go back to the drawing board, figure out what's going on, figure out where the need is, what the resources are, and keep going.
Incredible. So Alice, we're gonna jump back to you. So what I love about both of you, well, you're both dear friends of mine. We spent a lot of time at the design studio together, but I feel like you reject prevailing orthodoxies. Like, you see the world as it is, and you've like dreamed up and built like the world as it should be. And I'm really encouraged by the work that you're doing with your organizations. And so Alice, I'd like you to sort of take me like on the journey of 51 Labs and really like hit some of those critical milestones and those success stories. I really want to highlight those for the next few minutes.
Yeah, it's been a long and crazy journey so far. We launched the second year of graduate school. So I was at SIPA, I met my two co-founders there, and we decided to join the Dean's Challenge. And I heard that, I think the Dean's Challenge just awarded their prizes a little bit before us. So congratulations to all the winners. The Dean's Challenge really created a structure for us to launch 51 Labs, and really kind of created, I think, the momentum for us to get started as quickly as possible. I was lucky enough to be working at the design studio at the time at Columbia with Adam and Joe for a lot of it, and was already, I think, really bought into this idea of human-centered design, of needing to really understand who your users are, understand what the challenge is, and where you can fit in. And so we were lucky enough through the Dean's Challenge and through kind of some of the opportunities that SIPA gave us to come back and forth to Iraq a number of times. I had already lived here previously, but I think we were coming back with new eyes and really able to speak to a lot of really amazing young people about their ideas, about their hopes, and about, I think, all of the gaps that are here, all of the ways that it is really challenging to be an entrepreneur. So we took all of that knowledge and we developed our pilot, which was obviously our prototype. And we ran it for 6 weeks while we were still in graduate school with 14 entrepreneurs from across 2 different cities in Iraq. 50% of them had been displaced, 50% were local. And we ran kind of 6 weeks of intensive training, linked them with mentors. And from that, we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes, but we also did a lot that was right, that worked really well. And so using kind of those lessons learned, we launched in Iraq this summer after I graduated from SIPA. I moved full-time here. My co-founder is based in the UK. She was also a SIPA graduate. And we just started working on it. Our first cohort of entrepreneurs was in Erbil, and it was literally just myself and one other person running this cohort. We did all of the trainings ourselves. We developed the curriculum ourselves based on our backgrounds. And because of that kind of really intensive face-to-face, every single day working with our entrepreneurs, we were able to learn just such an incredible amount. And based on that, we've kind of been iterating and improving our programs ever since. we have worked intensively with 47 entrepreneurs now and helped them launch their businesses. We have a female founders program where we work with amazing growth stage women-led businesses, which is really amazing. And we launched this giant co-working space in our second city, Soleimani. Here, I'll show it to you just so you have a little view of what it looks like. It's empty today because today is weekend and it's also kind of the holy day here in Iraq. But yeah, so we've managed to accomplish a lot in the 2 years that we've been operating here full time. And we're also just constantly learning from all of the mistakes we're making along the way also.
Absolutely incredible. Great background, and thank you for showing us a bit of that space. We appreciate that, Alice. Yeah. So Shanna, sort of, same question. Like, take us on the journey of Bitae Technologies and really hit those successes.
Okay, well, I think we have a lot of overlap with Alice and with 501 Labs. We're a Columbia company. I think that this company was formed at Columbia, has been supported as part of Columbia and all of our experiences here, and it's just been a really incredible experience to be supported so much by this community. Not just like entrepreneurship, but SIPA, business school, the whole ecosystem is supporting entrepreneurship. We started also 2 co-founders from SIPA. We met in a class our first year at SIPA, a technology and innovation class. And Gemma, my co-founder, and I, we had kind of complementary projects, and so at the end of the class we combined our projects and then started to go the design studio is actually where our first like big brainstorm happened. It was a disaster all over a whiteboard. It was a lot of things, and from that point forward, like, we went through the Dean's Challenge as well. We were here, we won the Dean's Challenge last year here, so it's nice to be back full circle. And then from that, we moved into Incubate in the Columbia Startup Lab, which has been an incredible experience. And so it's been a Columbia company throughout. As part of the Dean's Challenge, during our second year of grad school, we were able to travel to the region 2 times to kind of do partnership development, stakeholder interviews, and really dig into the deeper issues of the problem we're trying to solve. And so that was an opportunity, I think, for us to really hone in on, like, we had an idea, we had some background in the region and background in the issues, but then to actually go and ask the questions of, okay, we have this hunch, we've read some data, we understand, conceptually, but I need to know, like, on the ground, like, what's really happening? What are you actually dealing with on a daily basis? What are the needs here, and what would be useful? How could we solve your problems? And from those trips, that's how come we kind of came to our technology. After graduating and winning the Dean's Challenge and moving into the Columbia Startup Lab, we started to do the prototyping process, and we built out a wireframe, UX/UI wireframe, to test the usability and the user experience and the use of this platform. So we built out a platform that's both a mobile app and a web platform, a web-based mobile and also a web platform, to kind of test the user experience for both an individual job seeker and also for our partners, who are organizations who are providing trainings and trying to certify their job seekers. And so that wireframing process, we went through a couple rounds of testing, and then right now, actually, we are in talks with another SIPA company, with ThinkIt, started by Memi Bouxi out of Tunisia. They run our engineering school that's like a very basic description of what they do, but a engineering and coding school in Tunisia. And so we're talking to them about hiring some of their engineers to help us build this platform. And we're pushing towards a pilot in the fall in Jordan, talking with partners, first with UN partners and NGOs there who are trying to create certificates with currency, so helping their students get access to scholarships, access back into education, and access to gainful employment. So that's where we're at right now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Alice, I'm really curious, what sort of advice do you have for maybe any of the future founders who are sitting in this room, sort of looking at 2 strong, successful, amazing women who are running incredible organizations and wondering, like, what would it take to actually get to the positions where you are right now? Maybe dispelling some of the myths of entrepreneurship, but what is it like to be an entrepreneur, and what advice would you have for someone who's, sort of afraid to get started? Alice, we'll start with you.
It is not an easy decision to decide to be an entrepreneur. I think it is definitely kind of the hardest path, but it's also the most fun, and it's the most exciting. And I think really kind of seeing something being created And being a part of that is just a really amazing feeling, and one that it's really hard to find anywhere else. So what I would say to all of you in the audience that are interested in being an entrepreneur, what do you have to lose, really? I mean, you're young, I'm guessing, and I'm sure you're super smart, and you have all of the skills necessary to do this. And you will definitely make mistakes along the way. But I think as long as you think about everything as a test, right? You're testing whether or not this thing works. If it doesn't work, then you find out how to make it better and how to make it better after that. And as long as you kind of have that mindset of continually improving, understanding that you don't know everything and that you just need to keep working at it, I think that you will do just fine. I guess the thing I would say especially is that I would really encourage you to think about what social impact you can have. We at 51 Labs, my co-founder and I, we realized that we had specific skill sets, and that with our kind of skill sets and background, we could actually do something that might make a difference here in Iraq and across the Middle East. And so it was less of a crazy decision and more of a calculated risk. And I think as long as you have made that calculation, and you know that you have the ability to make a change, you can make a really huge impact in whatever you want to do. So that's my advice for you. Try it. Go talk to the guys at the design studio. They'll help you think through your idea. I moved to Iraq basically the day after I finished graduate school, and I haven't looked back since. I mean, I come back. I just haven't looked back.
Incredible. Relentless forward progress. Always be going forward, Alice. So Shanna, same question. Advice to someone who wants to be an entrepreneur. What's it like?
I think a piece of advice that I hear often and always go back to, and one of the things I think I've heard is most useful, is to surround yourself by people who are smarter than you. So surround yourself by people who know so much, who are experts, who are talking about these issues, doing these issues, working, kind of chipping away at the same topics that you're interested in. That's definitely been fundamental to us, is having an advisory team, informal and formal, of just incredible people from across the board, and also looking into information that doesn't seem like it might be directly useful. I think that if I was like steeping myself only in entrepreneurship, like how to lead a company, then I wouldn't be keeping my ear to the ground also on all of the things that might play into this company and keep it alive. So like that idea of innovation and always having a network, always having feelers out to things that might just seem disconnected and they might come into play later. That's kind of how we found blockchain, honestly. Mm-hmm. We didn't have, we didn't start the company based on blockchain. We started the company based on access to employment and education, and along the way found out that there was this technology that could make the secure and verifiable credentials possible. So it was this thing out of left field that everybody was talking about, and it was this big hype, and it ended up being a technology that was fundamental to us. And then I think the other thing I was going to say is just, like Alice said, just do it while you can. If you have the capacity and the resources and the time and energy to do it now, do it, because you will, it might be more difficult, it's always harder to get started later, but also you're going to learn so much. I think after graduate school, I went full-time into entrepreneurship rather than going full-time into paying off my student loans, like everyone else, which is a struggle, but it's also been such an incredibly rich learning experience I wouldn't have gotten otherwise if I was working for someone else right now. So I feel like I got a CPA degree, and then I got half of a business degree out of just going through these experiences and learning as I go, learning from my advisors, and then learning, as you come up with these challenges and as we have failures, like what do I need to do next time, and how do I file my taxes correctly?
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for that. So we're going to move on to our last question, and it's this notion of like a call to action. What can we do? How can we get involved in this issue, either within your organization or the field at large? So for Alice, for you, what can you send us out into the world? How can you challenge us to take action on this issue or to get involved in 51 Labs?
Yeah, great question, and thank you for asking it. The first thing, if there is one takeaway that I want you to have from this conversation, is that refugees, people who have been displaced, people who have been affected by conflict have so much human capital, right? They're not helpless at all. They're these incredible people with incredible experiences who can really be assets to their new countries. And I think that that's really important, and it's just a really important lesson for everyone to remember. So that's the first thing, is the people we're working with are totally badass. And we kind of are constantly trying to make sure everybody knows that. The second thing is there are lots of ways to get involved with 5-1 Labs if you are interested in this sort of thing. The first is if you are a business student or have business experience, we are constantly looking for mentors who can work one-on-one with our entrepreneurs and really help them develop their businesses and their business ideas. If you're interested in that, please send me an email, or there's a sign-up form on our website. We would love to talk to you about that. The second is we're always looking for volunteers or interns who are interested in helping us do research or marketing or any number of things, kind of sharing the story. So if you want to personally get involved, there are always ways. And then finally, we need seed funding for our entrepreneurs. We raise all of that through individuals, through people who are excited about the idea of helping the next generation of entrepreneurs in Iraq. So consider donating, because all of that money goes directly to our entrepreneurs and to helping them launch their businesses. And then I think going back to what I said before is, if this is not the issue that interests you, but if there's another issue that interests you, then just start working on it. I think it's never too early to really start pursuing your kind of social entrepreneurial dreams. So just get started.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, that's something we say at the studio all the time, is don't get ready, get started. So Shanna, to you, what's the call to action?
I think I think Alice touched on maybe the most fundamental message of our work, which is the dignity and just the fact that this is talent and opportunity. I think refugee is a designation. It's a legal designation, but it's not an identity. It's not who you are for the rest of your life, and it's not who you can be when it comes to looking for jobs, looking for education, continuing your life, just continuing to do what you want to do. And so that's one thing. I think that it's as much a mindset shift as it is that that there's a need for resources to donate, to talk about these issues, to get involved in these issues. But it's as much a mindset shift, I think, that needs to happen, especially in this country right now. But in general, looking at the fact that migration is a part of society, and it's not going to go away. Migration is a very common thing, and this idea that there are barriers to access to education, to employment, to gainful employment, to just livelihoods in general, based on a designation like that is just ridiculous, honestly. So part of it's a little bit of just as you're thinking about these issues, as you hear the next thing about refugees or about migration or about asylum policy, any of this sort of stuff, migrants on the border. Try to think about it at this human-centered level of what's happening on the ground. Exactly what are these people's skills and passions and ideas and potential? What is the talent? What is it possible? What is possible for them? Yeah. And I think the other thing on that sort of train of thought in terms of looking at the issues and choosing something, every issue has a million sides to it. So if you are interested in refugee issues or in migration or in access to employment, access to education, there are so many things that are needed, and I think that it's not going to be one idea or one company or one policy that will fix these kinds of issues. It's going to have to be a collective action. It has to be a collective movement of thinking and doing and building together that will make opportunities open up. In terms of getting involved with Bitae, we're early stage, so we are looking for a lot of different support mechanisms. One is just we have Twitter and Instagram and a Facebook page if you can follow along and support and join in the conversation there. We're also looking for interns. We're looking for a data science intern for the summer, and then we're looking for funding. We are pushing towards a pilot in the fall, and so we're looking for some seed funding to support that pilot and get our proof of concept done. So yeah, that's where we're at.
All right. Well, Alice, Shanna, thank you guys so much for taking the time, for spending your morning, Shanna, and for your evening, Alice, with us. I thank you. The Columbia community thanks you from the bottom of our hearts, and please keep up the incredible work. You are both strong and amazing and such an inspiration to me and to everyone else. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody.
Bye, Alice.
Bye, guys.